Two, one.
Yeah, hi, my name is Klaus Woessner. I work as a special needs assistant here in Killarney Community College. I actually don't like the term special needs assistant. I prefer classroom assistant because the term special need has some sort of like bad connotation to it, really, and some children don't want to be seen as having special needs. Um, I'm 50 years old and this is my year 13 here in the school. Um, I'm from Germany originally, and back in Germany I studied to be a secondary school teacher. I was in college for 4 years and I worked in different secondary schools, private secondary schools, but I never completed my education. And when I moved over here to Ireland, I never lost sight of that dream of working with teenagers and working in a school, and doing the SNA qualification was the closest to it that I could do. And I'm actually really, really glad I've worked here for 13 years now, because I see the pressures that teachers are under, and I feel I have the best of being part of the education system while having the fun and the crack with the students. So, and in the last 13 years, I've been working with students with different disabilities and with different profiles, from autism to ADHD to dyslexia to opposite defiance disorder to physical disability. So I've worked with a really wide variety and range of students with different needs. So yeah, it's been good so far. We'll see how it goes.
Can I ask, you've talked about dealing with students with ADHD, autism, and dyslexia. Have you dealt with any with dyspraxia?
Yes, I'm actually even currently with students, helping students with dyspraxia. Now, when I started 13 years ago, it was a bit like, they go, Klaus, this is your student. This is your responsibility. And that has really changed. So it's a bit like there's a class, 12 students with different kind of profiles, help where you can. And I'm also going all throughout the years, first, second, third, fourth, fifth year. And at the very beginning was one student, maybe two students. So that is a massive, massive change. But I'm very aware. I have a family member with dyspraxia, actually, and I'm quite aware of it. And interesting that you mentioned dyspraxia. Obviously I'm 50 and all these disabilities weren't around really when I was younger. Sometimes when I look at my own things that I have, it could well be that I have dyspraxia, because I would fit some of the criteria as in that somebody with dyspraxia has. In the same as well as my father, who passed away a good while back. I'm fairly convinced he was autistic, and everything that I know about autism makes complete sense with some of the behaviors and issues that my father had. But obviously people our generation, we didn't have the diagnosis as people do have now. Yeah.
Before we continue the interview, can I ask, how were people before, as you said, autism, dyslexia, dyspraxia, what were they viewed as or called before the actual diagnoses were a thing?
So back in my time in Germany, we had this one weird kid in my school. Fairly certain he was probably on the autistic spectrum. We didn't quite know, we just thought it was great crack taking the piss out of him, to be honest with you, and I was included, or making fun of it, because we just thought he's weird or different or odd or whatever you want to call it. I'm also really aware of people my generation who couldn't spell, were literally told, you're stupid or you're slow, you're not material for going to college, because not being able to spell meant not being intelligent.
Would you say that that is still the case in some schools in Ireland, where if you cannot spell...
I really hope it's not, because at this stage we should know that dyslexia is nothing to do with intelligence, because the amount of people that are now in quite big positions, entrepreneurs that have really excelled, that have dyslexia, and their stories have come out of they've been treated as kids. So I firmly believe, look, there might still be people around who haven't quite caught on, but as an institution in an education system, I think at this stage we should know that that has nothing to do with intelligence.
What help has been given to these students, not just with dyslexia, but let's just say dyspraxia, autism, ADHD in the school environment?
So I can only speak for our school. I've always briefly worked in St. Oliver's National School at the beginning of my career. I see, like, first of all, us SNAs, the group that is here, the likes of Mrs. Sullivan and her team, our understanding of where the students coming from, what their needs are, how they can thrive within the environment, within a big group. So the help that is there, I think the most important thing is reassuring students there's nothing wrong with you. What you have is nothing to be ashamed of. You just need this little bit of extra help, or you need to be reminded to maybe behave in a different way or act in a different way, or just encouraged. I think that's the most important thing. It really is.
Would you say you have impacted students positively in your time here?
Oh, of course.
Ah,
Like, look, I love my job, and I think if you work with teenagers, you have to like what you do. Otherwise, every morning it's hell. Because as you know, teenagers aren't that easy to deal with. So you have to like your job. And I truly believe in having just a positive outlook at life, and I'm hoping that that's what I'm portraying in school. Now, I know I am still very close to a family of a student that I minded for a long time with a physical disability. He passed away in the meantime. I'm still really close with his family as a friend, and I know that the impact my relationship had with this particular student was an impact on the whole family, because he thrived in the time. I'm not saying because of me, but I definitely helped them to overcome his insecurities about his disability.
was this the time where you were solely caring for one student?
Yes, this student had muscular dystrophy. He was in a wheelchair. Literally, his ability was only to move his electric wheelchair, but he didn't have the use of his hands. So I was, from feeding to toileting to everything, I was his hands and his legs as such. But to see this student coming in as a shy, insecure, wanting to be invisible student, to when he left us at Leaving Cert as a real lad, like, it was an absolutely beautiful transition.
Would you say you had a personal relationship with
Oh,
him?
very much so. As it is, I'm still friends with all the family. I started working with this boy outside school as well for the Irish Wheelchair Association. My job there was like just to play PlayStation, go to the cinema. So this was very much a personal relationship. And it's a fine line, because I feel one of my strengths is personal relationships, always has been in all my career choices. And I feel that's what I enjoy most of my job, is building relationships with students. And yeah, I really hope that makes a little bit of a difference, because what's beautiful about my job is I'm not the sir who gives you a grade, but yet I'm part of the system. So I could be this kind of connector of, you can tell me something that you wouldn't tell your teacher, or you can tell me if you're in a classroom setting, you don't understand the question, and you'd be afraid to ask the teacher without being judged. You know, that kind of thing. So it gives me a completely different ability to help students within the school setting.
So would you say, as an SNA, that you have not just helped children with these needs, but the entire classroom as a whole?
That's why I love calling it a classroom assistant. And I think all 8 of us that work here have understood that there's so much more than the child that you're assigned to. If there's a student who has no profile and doesn't understand something, I'm able to help, of course I will. Now, SNAs officially are not allowed to teach. That's the official line. But there's such a grey zone, because if a teacher says something, the student doesn't understand it, I rephrase it in a different way and the student understands it. That's teaching.
Yeah.
But also assisting. And to me, it's a complete no-brainer that we're here for all 400 students in the school.
This may not be the case, but would you say you have learned anything from the students you have been helping?
Students are the best teachers. Like, to me, I'm a mindfulness teacher, and I truly believe that we are on this beautiful journey of life. Now I'm getting really deep here, but we are, because it's all about learning. It's learning different experiences. It's learning not just for school or academics. It's learning for life. And the amount of stuff I learned from students, from their journeys, from their behaviours, looking back sometimes at myself when I was a teenager, how would I have dealt with this situation? And I see so much potential and maturity actually sometimes in you guys when I compare to how I was at your age. And it's beautiful. I have huge hope and see so much potential in all of you. Yeah, so absolutely. Every day when you wake up, it's all about learning new skills. And I'm really grateful for the amount of experiences I get to have with the students, which I learn from personally, my own personal growth. So yeah, it's great.
Can I ask, as an SNA, you have been an SNA for 13 years,
Yeah.
yes? Can I ask, when you started your job compared to now, was there any quote-unquote stereotypes about you?
About me?
About
Oh,
your
where would we
job
start?
title? Sorry, about specifically your job title.
Or the job title, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the first big one was, I'd say I'm a man as
Yeah.
an SNA. I think I was the first man in the county maybe even to work as an SNA, which was a bit weird. Because an SNA traditionally is a female job, it's a caring job. And I started in a primary school where it's like this connection of mother, child, which is completely changing in our society in any way. But in 2008, it was a bit like, what is he doing? Like, what, you know. So yeah, that was the one thing to start with. Then the second thing is when I started here specifically in the school, there was some teachers here that it was new to have another adult in the room as an SNA. And it was a bit like, this is my room, why is there not, what are they observing me? Are they judging me? There was a little bit more of a reserved kind of thing, even to the point that some teachers said, who's the child you're here for? That's the child, don't walk around my room kind of thing. Which I didn't take personally, that's just how it was. While now I feel teachers are lining up to have us come into the room and help them. And some teachers see us as a huge potential to help them to teach to the best ability.
So originally it would be more intimidation, they would feel from
with
you.
some, I'd say, look, not with everybody. Like I have the relationships I built here with nearly all the teachers is incredible. It was a journey of like some were a bit slower to open up the room, or you know, to open up to who I am as a person as well, maybe to interact with them. But no, there's a really, really good working relationship between teaching staff and students.
Can you tell me about the advancements you've made since you started, and what do you believe is yet to improve? We've kind of touched on this already, but what would you say, and this isn't just with students, it could be with teachers as well, but how would you see you have improved the school as a whole, as an SNA?
Well, I think, like I said before, our ability to build relationship with students, that students have great relationship with teachers as well. But for us, we have the ability to connect on another level. That some students open up to us differently that they can open up to students. As well, we're on supervision a lot, and some of the students have said to me, "Sure, you're one of us," kind of thing. So sometimes I'm walking around and I'm hearing things that a teacher wouldn't hear, you know, and we're literally on the ground all the time mixing with students. So we're definitely in a kind of, we have the ability to stamp out fires where we see them, or to prevent further harm when you straight away have an inkling of there's potential that something might be, that we might interject. Now, a lot of the situations are way beyond my pay grade, so I'm very often referring on to year heads or to guidance counsellors when I see there is potential there, but I could deal with some of the situations, but I'm referring it on, which is really important. But that's where our school works really well, that we have this really strong connected group of people that really care about students.
Would you say, actually, what challenges would you see for people with ADHD, ADD, ASD, also known as autism, dyslexia and dyspraxia? For the students that you are helping, what challenges can you see for them, and have they overcome them? And if they have, how?
So I think when you see students coming in first year, sometimes you see students coming in with this labeling themselves as, this is me, and that's why I, lack of confidence, or I'm unable to do something because sometimes I've seen as well using it as an excuse of, sure, I have ADHD, I get away with it. So I've seen it all, depending. Every child has a different personality. It doesn't matter if there's a label to it or not. There's always going to be still the whole, I find, especially with ADHD, it's an excuse of a student to misbehave. And that is a label that is still there. Or even when you sometimes understand that everybody learns in different ways, and when you have a teacher says, sit straight, legs under the table, stop moving, you go, you're saying this to a student, you're literally caging them, and how are they going to be able to listen to you? They have to move, they might have to look out the window, they might have to bounce. And that's something where we have to continue to educate educators, that they understand this is important to some students, and you can't brush everybody with the same brush.
You mentioned about students, some students using their diagnosis as an excuse.
Yeah.
How about when the tables are turned? How about when students are coming to you about being insecure about their diagnosis? What advice have you given them, and what played out from there?
So like I said before, I teach a bit of mindfulness and meditation. And within that setting, I truly believe self-love is the most important thing. Respecting yourself, loving yourself, accepting that you have flaws. And that's where everything, when I speak to students that I see have confidence issues, that's what it's based on. I think you can't judge the ability of an intelligence of a fish, how it can climb a tree. Isn't that famous saying? So we've had amazing workshops here as well, the likes of Seamus Whitty, who comes in, who compares Albert Einstein to David Beckham. you know, and you see sometimes this light bulb moment with students, there's more than one form of intelligence. So just because I'm not great at spelling or because I find it difficult to make friends, that doesn't matter because I have other strengths. So focusing on your strength, I think, is the ultimate.
For those considering going into your profession, what advice would you give them, and what would you say are qualities they may need?
For people that are thinking of becoming SNAs, first of all, I think you have to just like children. Because when I remember the first day that I had my a course, I was actually here in an evening class with to do the SNA qualification, and the first thing your man said is, "Hands up, who here doesn't like children?" But 6 of them went there. They're like, "What you call it? Believe that what I'm about to say?" And we're all like, "Dude, you're in the wrong room. Like, you have to deal with teenagers here." I think being good with people is essential. You have to be able to read people. You have to have a lot of empathy, because if you're very quick to judge, you might not see the full picture. And just have fun, like, because if you're genuine about yourself, then people will give you the respect because they see you as being genuine, that you're not putting on a show or that you're real with people. I think that's really important. But yet you also have to, my job is not to be your friends, even though I am. My job is to help you guys, and I'm still need to be an authority at somewhat. So I think that's a fine line and a balance.
Would you say that for your job, that is when actually getting the qualifications for it, that those are not just what you need? Once you have the qualifications, there is still personality traits that you may need to get into this job and to actually benefit students how you need to.
So when I got my qualification as an SNA, looking back at it, nearly everything I learned there has done absolutely nothing for me here. I learned the basics of what the different disabilities are, what I'm supposed to do if people knock the head of each other, how to behave, the ethics and all that kind of thing. Everything that I've learned in my job is here, hands-on. What happens in this situation? You can't learn that by the book. If you work with people, it's about people. You can't learn in a kind of scenario, or sometimes like if you're in a scenario where you have to react within a second. That's what life is, you know. You learn the basics, and it's a bit of paper. To me, it's all about your personality. To me, it's about the ability to connect. Absolutely.
That is most of our questions so far. Before we end this interview, is there anything you would like to add? Is there any final word, or is there anything you feel that should be mentioned?
Well, I feel I have the best job in the world. I've done different jobs in my lifetime. I'm absolutely blessed to work here. I'm blessed to have the ability to do this every day, and I think we're a great school community. You guys are great to work with. Sometimes it's challenging, but that's just part of it. And I suppose anybody that sees this, that is thinking about maybe going into the profession, it is very rewarding, challenging, rewarding. You can grow from it. I really love it. I'm really blessed to be here.
There's a saying that when you pass on, that the best you have done for yourself, or the best person you have been, is the imprint you have left on other people. By that definition, would you say that the SNA is one of the most rewarding jobs you can have?
It is the most rewarding job I had in my lifetime, and I had about 20, 30 different jobs. Absolutely. So I suppose it's not for everybody, but for those that enjoy spending time with children, teenagers, helping to bring the best out in them, absolutely.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.